have 6 smart appliances in my home, and I purchased them when we first moved in. Was it worth it? I've only purchased from LG and Samsung, and that's because in general, they have the most smart features. But I think what I've found over 6 months will surprise you. So let's get it. Now, this oven is from Samsung. It's an induction stovetop and an oven with convection and air fryer features. I could have gone down a few $100s to remove the Wi-Fi connectivity that gets this into the Samsung SmartThings app, and I could have gone up quite a bit in price to get a camera inside. We'll talk about the look and the feel in a bit, but I want to start with some of those smart features. The interface to turn on the oven or the induction stovetop, which is over there, it is still a little difficult to control the burners, which I'll show you in a little bit. And this is Samsung, so I would expect a control interface to be intuitive, and this one definitely is not. The little screens here and here are very helpful, and I like the look of the whole panel generally. I have, however, had to reset this control panel once already, which is a very short timeline. It came up with an error code. I had to reset the whole thing by turning the breakers on and off. Just some little nuances, like I can't turn on and off the oven light unless the oven is actually on. Little things like that, and I would have expected a little more from Samsung. Now I'm just waiting for the next control panel issue to hit, and you'll see this theme will come up again later in our review. But that Wi-Fi connectivity and the connection to the SmartThings app, unfortunately the interface is pretty much useless. I can push in some settings for the oven, but there's not a lot of reason to do that when I can just walk up to the oven. I also don't have great automation options there, and unfortunately, there's a problem that you'll hear me say multiple times today between Samsung SmartThings and other smart home platforms. Both Google and Amazon can control some basics. You gotta learn some of the voice commands, but for example, I can turn on the oven light. I can also push things like the settings into the oven in some cases. Those are nice features to get things started or ready before you get up to the oven, but there's always safety features in the way that stop you from actually starting the oven with an automation feature. That same safety feature stops me from changing the temperature while I'm cooking, which I think is pretty dumb. Now, Samsung has done a few things that have stopped automations from going further with other hubs too. Both my Home Assistant and my Homey hub cannot do anything with this oven. The automations just aren't working with those platforms, and right now the folks at Home Assistant are saying you can't even add new SmartThings devices into their integration, so it's kind of a mess with any hub that isn't Samsung's. And it's not that useful with Samsung's. From an oven and a stovetop standpoint, it is pretty well designed. As I said, the interface is a little hard to get used to, but once you got it, there's nice things like a timer that lets you turn off the oven when you're done with it, or use a keep warm setting. Those kinds of options are really nice to have, and the different burners on the top are really great. All the different modes of cooking in the oven are great, and in general, they cook things really quickly. In fact, you have to watch with the convection part of this oven. I've had convection ovens in the past, but this is another level of fast cooking when you use something like that. Now, the induction stovetop is a little different. The coating is great. And I wasn't sure about that when I first saw it. I even asked the sales guy about scratching. He said, no, you'll never scratch it. It's really hard to do. And he was right. But it does really matter what pots and pans you use because it's an induction stovetop. I bought this really nice hex-clad pan, but I'm gonna let you listen to it on the stove. You know, that's vibration you're hearing from induction. So I can actually show you. It totally goes away. I bought some more pans to test and try them out. And, you know, there's varying levels of sound from this oven. I do like that it will detect right here on the panel. It'll say, hey, your cookware's not on there. I like that safety feature, but you will end up doing a little bit of trial and error with some different pots and pans to kind of get a feel for how that sound is going to be. It can be quite distracting, and it does get higher the higher you go on a pan like this. Overall, it's a fantastic oven, but it's not very smart. Was it worth the extra couple of $100 to get the Wi-Fi connectivity and some of the smart features? Probably not for most people. And right above this is a microwave with all the same considerations from a smart home perspective. It's absolutely beautiful, and I love the small footprint. I love the inside, how it looks, and I've actually never been impacted with the short height, being too short for something I was cooking. Maybe I just don't use big enough dishes. It's obviously a little high for those shorter people in your life, and there are times where I've had to put something in the microwave for my kids. So for those of you who are gonna worry about something like that, I'm not worried about it! You might wanna get a full-size version and just deal with hitting your head on it every so often. But again, we have that same connectivity situation where Samsung lets you put some settings into it and you get some minor voice control with Google and Amazon, but it's really useless after that. And although the Wi-Fi connectivity has been really strong and has never dropped offline, I can't do much with it. I get notifications when things are done cooking, just like my oven. And I can ask Amazon, Google, or Samsung to control that light. So,
Sandra,
turn on the microwave light. Yeah. But there are no other really useful automations, even in combination with the oven. I'd like to be able to start an automation to turn on that light when I'm cooking something in the oven, but I can't do that today. I also find the interface on the microwave to be pretty weak. There's good settings, there's good numbers and stuff, but you know, there's no light physically on any of these buttons. Every time I press a button, there's fingerprints on it. You can see it already. I'm constantly cleaning this. And you know, when I go to clean it, the buttons are mostly pressure. And this is what goes on. I'm hitting, you know, all the different buttons, and I kind of can't stop that unless I'm using like a really, really thick cloth. And even then, I'm still hitting things. So again, would I say any of these smart features are worth it? I don't know about that. Now on the flip side, my LG ThinQ refrigerator is probably my favorite smart appliance. It's a big double door fridge with a lot more space than I thought it had when I bought it. The freezer has 3 different trays and it's holding just a ton of food right now. This is kind of a surprising shelf. Actually, I just wanted to show you. Look how deep this is. And that's what I mean. This is a huge fridge. Now, the water in the ice dispensers are really good. This is nothing new, but they have increased our water intake a lot throughout our home. And there is a pretty good water filter right inside of here. It's easy to take out and replace. There's also 2 other kinds of ice that this fridge makes. Everyone who comes here, they love the big craft ice. And actually, they kind of love the little mini ice too. On top of that, you get good notifications from the fridge when your ice has been in a bin for too long. They ask you to throw it out, and that actually gets you to change your setting for how much ice the whole fridge is making. Those settings are available in the ThinQ app, and there's a few other settings in there too. Plus, in the evenings, you get good lighting when you open the door and a little light strip on the underside of the door. That comes on automatically when you're near the fridge. It lights your way just enough without being too bright. This is an incredibly quiet fridge. The only time I really hear it is when it's making extra ice, any of the different ices right here. And the only problem I've had with this fridge is sometimes when this ice bin gets a little full, it gets too much ice kind of stuck up here, and I have to grab this bin out, which is just a lift out, and shake it out a little bit. Now, from a smart perspective, It's actually really good. You just heard all kinds of different settings and different things that I can manage on this fridge. The connectivity through Wi-Fi has been strong. I haven't really seen it come off my Wi-Fi system. I've been able to make changes when I wanted to, and the connectivity to 4 different platforms has been pretty good. The most effective app is, of course, Homey, and that's because LG now owns Atham, the company that makes Homey. You're not gonna do much with Google or Amazon, and I wouldn't expect many people to change the temperature setting inside of their fridge or freezer very often anyways. But it is nice to see it, and it is nice to have it. I think for most people, if you're looking at a fridge like this, you're gonna want a more capable hub to take advantage of the smart features. Having a dashboard from Homey that shows me the air quality, the temperature being maintained, and more is really nice. Now, would I suggest that every home needs Wi-Fi connectivity on a fridge like this? No, but for me here, there are some features, especially with those graphs showing me how the fridge is performing. It's a really nice reinforcement of how good this fridge is, and it'll help with troubleshooting in the future. Now, before I head out of the kitchen, I'd love to hear your experience with your own smart appliances. I'm betting there's a bunch of great stories out there, and I know you guys always bring great insight. So I'd love to hear about your own smart appliances, what you're looking at next. You know, my dishwasher is just a regular one, so I'd love to hear from you guys what you're finding great use in. The second LG appliance I have is my TV. Now this is the C4, which is last year's model, and it's a 65-inch TV. It's Wi-Fi connected, and you can connect it by Ethernet. There are 3 HDMI ports, a couple of USB ports, plus it does Bluetooth connectivity to many speakers and even game controllers, keyboards, and mice. It connects to all of the different streaming services you could ever want, and they even have their own app store with little games and little apps that you can download for extra features. There's so much to tell you that this TV can do that I'd spend all day explaining it. That it can be an art piece, a music player from your phone, a movie theater centerpiece, a gaming console, a workstation that remotes into your PC or uses Google Docs or Amazon 360. It's an Amazon voice assistant, and it has its own LG voice assistant. The new integration with Homey is excellent. That's because this is local control, so that's only running on my home's Wi-Fi. They're missing a few of the controls that I would like to see, but I could do a few really great things, like open up specific apps with automations inside of Homey's app. So I could do things like go to Netflix like that. Now, the big thing that I think they're missing from all of the different controls they have is like a select button. So I can go next and previous, you can see it moving up there, but I can't actually select and go forward in a menu. So you still end up needing the remote at that point. I did have a couple of people complain to me about LG's WebOS on comments here on the channel. That's the interface that's on this TV, but I found it very snappy, and I don't mind the 1 or 2 locations where I have run into advertisements. It's shocking for me to say that it's okay that there are ads, but honestly, I feel like people who are focused on these type of ads are just focused on being a little angry. And sometimes I get an ad on what are called LG channels, which are essentially free channels that you get on these TVs. And then there's one ad at the top of the main homepage that's usually about a movie you might want to watch. And I like that LG has chosen not to play any sound off of that ad unless I specifically hover on it. Now on top of that, this is a great speaker and an amazing TV to have in my home. From a Wi-Fi standpoint, it's been reliably connected since I've got it. I'll talk about a few special options in a moment. But there's another side to the smart home connectivity with this TV. This is a Matter controller. I'm able to connect things to this television that have the Matter logo on them, and that's a big deal for a lot of people, but it's not super well developed. LG will need to do more work here. A great example of this problem is that I have connected Philips Hue to this TV. I can't find where I control that. So it's already been connected. The TV told me to do this, but I can't find how to control those lights. But there is an LG voice assistant on this, as well as Amazon's voice assistant, which I can just click on here or use the wake word. And through this, I do have control of my entire home. Turn on the lights in the kitchen. I have been able to bring up cameras connected to Amazon's voice assistant on this TV just by asking. That's an amazing experience. And there is a lot of capability with Amazon's assistant on here too, because even when the TV is off, for example, the assistant will listen. Turn on the lights in the kitchen. So now it's executed that command, the lights are on in my kitchen, and it turns the TV back off. So from a smart home perspective, this is a really effective appliance now. I can get a lot done through it. And although I think some of the interface has to get better, this experience with LG is pretty good now. Now we're upstairs with my Samsung washer and dryer. These are stackable versions with Wi-Fi connectivity. And again, they come into the Samsung SmartThings app. They have some minor control options with Amazon and Google, so it's basically the same situation from a smart home perspective with the washer and dryer as it is with the oven and microwave. Physically, this isn't exactly a large space. I had to find fairly small units to fit into here and ones that would still work for a family. Now, I managed to do that. There were some LG units that I was looking at. They were slightly bigger, and then I was gonna have zero space along the sides in that tiny space. So these fit, but they also have a pretty good capacity. I'll tell you, I've enjoyed the fact that I can put so much into these, have them come out washed, dried, and clean. Both of these are essentially a set and forget model that just gets the job done. For example, the soap dispenser right here, it takes about half of a bottle of soap into it right here. So it goes for like 30 loads. And then the machine just decides how much soap to use from then on. So it's not using too much, which can be a big problem with these kinds of machines. It also makes decisions when you're using the AI modes for how long to run these cycles for, and it can shift kind of in the middle of the cycle. Then when it's done the washing cycle, it actually decides which settings to push into the dryer. So when you walk up after this is just completed, the settings are already there for your dryer, and you just gotta basically move things and then hit play. All of that is automated. So you'll see a little AI icon at the top. You can override all of those settings, and you have just this huge amount of different settings that you can use. And then you can, again, modify these things. The interface is fairly clean and tidy, and it's fairly easy to use. You do have to switch between the washer and the dryer though, and that gets a little confusing at first. That's probably the biggest gap here. I brought stackable units that have a single control panel. Somehow they still have separate Wi-Fi connections, and that gives me hope someday that if something breaks, I may still have the other unit. Maybe there are separate boards, but it's probably not the case. And Samsung certainly has a reputation of having control boards both be expensive and problematic. So these might not last long, and I knew that going in, but you always hope. From the physical perspective, these are fantastic. I've had a lot of time savings with simple things like the detergent and the lint trap being so easy to clean. It's fairly automated as far as just being an appliance. But from a smart home perspective, there's really no automation other than some notifications and the ability to push in some basic settings from the SmartThings app. With Samsung's app, there are some other aspects that I kind of can't show you as we're just talking about the appliances, but I wanted to show you here that number one, there's a home care tab. And for example, today it showed me I had to do a cleaning of the drum of my washer. And so we're actually running a cycle right now to clean that up. For your oven and your microwave, there's a food aspect here. So this is really great. You know, you can have a look through the different things. I put in that I have to eat gluten-free, for example, and I can send all these things to a shopping list. And there are some reviews, plus there are certain opportunities where I can send a setting to the oven. Now, what does happen is sometimes I can't send that setting to my oven. So I do wish they would filter. There you go. I don't know why it says that, but now that has been sent to my oven. So they just have a little bug there that they need to fix. Something else that's very useful is the energy aspect of the app. So once you've enabled this, you can see your energy usage. You can see it on the fly. So I have those two appliances running at the moment. And I can also turn on AI energy mode with certain appliances. But in a lot of cases, you'll have to either connect your utilities meter to this, which some services in the United States can do, or you can put in things like the peak time saving. You can put in those kinds of settings and do that. But I kind of naturally save energy, or I use off peak times around here anyways. The last one is clothing care. You can scan detergents and scan care labels. So I have the detergent in dispenser 1. I can go scan that with my phone. I'll scan the barcode and that's it. Then it's kind of giving you some other detergents you can get, and it can help you with custom cycles. So especially with items that have specific care labels, you can scan those in and say, hey, I've got that in here. What sequence or what washer mode should we be in for that? One thing that is unfortunate as far as I'm concerned is, for some reason, you know, I've tried this multiple times, I cannot pair my microwave hood to the stovetop with my oven. Unfortunately, it never finds that. I've tried to put it into pairing modes. It's just not working. So if that worked, that would be a nice little feature, but there's a few gaps here I think you're seeing where some of these features are built. They're working, but they're not exactly what you might be hoping for. The LG fridge actually does have a number of settings associated with it, especially things like the craft ice. You can either make 3 or 6 per day of those. You can decide on, you know, if you want a lot of ice coming up, and you can turn on things like the smart learner feature, which kind of helps the right amount of ice be made on average with your home. Also helps with some of that energy saving. So again, we have energy saving periods where it's trying to use a little less energy. You can customize those based on what you've been given from your utility, and that can help you to save a little bit of money. There's a few other settings like night view where you can adjust the interior lighting levels and a couple other minor settings, but this is the basics of it. You're going to get more from a hub like Homey with this fridge. It's kind of the same with their television. You can control all of these different aspects from the app, so it is a little bit easier to use that always ready feature, like your art frame, your pictures. These are all great things. You can move between the inputs, so you don't have to pick up the remote necessarily. You can also search all of the TV's different apps using that. So there are some good controls here. You can get a full remote up on this, but for the most part, I think you're going to have other ways to control that television that are better. So my conclusion is that the general worth for people will come from the quality of the appliance. The smarts packed into your process and how much effort you have to put into using the appliance is where most of the value is, and where I can actually call all of these smart appliances smart. But from a smart home perspective, being able to automate things and to create bigger and better experiences for yourself and your family with these appliances actually more depends on what brand of smart appliance you're buying. I found that LG with the TV and the fridge was more open, and this might change in the future with their ownership of Homey, but today I'm getting many more options with their appliances than I'm getting with Samsung and theirs. I don't find those smart home features to be really worth it with Samsung's appliances. I love the notifications that I'm getting, and that'll be enough for a lot of people. But would I spend $300 to $500 more in order to get that Wi-Fi connectivity for that feature? The answer is no in almost every case. However, I would spend a little extra over a 10 to 15 year period for LG's fridge. I like the little graphs I'm getting. I like the extra automations that I have with their TV. And I like that I can get those options in a few different smart home platforms. Then as a guy who likes everything to be smart in my home, this is one situation where I'm gonna say it's probably not worth spending money on it. Hopefully some things change with what's called the Home Connectivity Alliance or with the Matter standard. Then we may run into some good automations that really change how you use your appliances. There are some really good small appliances that I've had over the years. Those can actually provide a lot of benefit. So I put together a little playlist over here on the TV for you to watch how some of those smaller appliances do amazing things for you. So check that out right there. Otherwise, thanks for watching today. And of course, live smart.